Welcome to the Be All You Can Be MSC, the podcast dedicated to empowering Army Medical Service Corps officers and professionals like you. I'm your host, Stephanie Moore. On today's episode of the Be All You Can Be MSC podcast, we have a very special guest for you. Our guest is the current 45th Surgeon General of the United States Army and Commanding General of the United States Army Medical Command. Welcome, sir, and thank you for graciously accepting my invitation, Lieutenant General Scott Dingle.
Stephanie, thank you for that tremendous introduction, and also thank you for having me on the Be All You Can Be podcast. I am excited to be here with you.
Well, thank you, sir. So let's jump right in, sir. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and your Army journey?
Stephanie, my name again is Scott Dingle. I am a native of Upper Marlboro, Maryland, and I came up in a military family. My dad is a retired Air Force officer, enlisted 20 years, and retired here in the DC, Maryland, Virginia area where I grew up. Born in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Funny, I've been in Army medicine my entire life. I was born in a military hospital, Air Force, and I've been a Army medicine dependent and active duty service member, a Service Corps officer. But I came up in Upper Marlboro, Maryland. I was an athlete growing up. And as I grew up, again, my dad was enlisted Air Force. He always encouraged military service and would say, Scott, join the military. But me coming up, that is the furthest thing that was on my mind. And I said, I am not joining the military. Ultimately, I made a deal with my dad. As I was going to college, I was heavily recruited. I'm a football and track athlete, and went to Morgan State University in Baltimore, Maryland. And as I went to Morgan State, I made a deal with my dad to take ROTC. While matriculating through Morgan State, I decided during my senior year that I was going to go on active duty. So I forewent my senior year of football and track and came in the military. Initially, I was trying to go military police. And when I was switching from reserve to active duty, I received Medical Service Corps. As I came in as a second lieutenant in the Medical Service Corps, best decision of my life. I did not fully know what Medical Service Corps was initially. One of my mentors, Lieutenant Colonel retired Kelvin Owens, came to Morgan State one day and gave an overview about the Medical Service Corps. And so that always stuck in the back of my mind. Like, man, it might be kind of cool to be a Medical Service Corps officer. But I'm an English major, sociology, and a military. I want to go military police and law school and be a lawyer. But then again, I was branch medical service corps, and it has been a tremendous career as I matriculated through the different areas of concentration. Ultimately, ended up selected to be a 70 hotel medical service corps. Started out in Fort Knox, Kentucky, 194th Separate Armored Brigade as platoon leader. Matriculated from there to McDonald Army Community Hospital, where I commanded. I attended the first pilot course of the Combined Logistics Captain's Career Course at Fort Lee, Virginia. Back then it was called CLOAC, the Combined Logistics Officer Advanced Course. I was handpicked as a lieutenant to represent Army medicine at that course as they were getting it off the ground. I went from there to 3rd Infantry Division, Germany as a company commander and served there. Came back as instructor at the schoolhouse, Fort Sam Houston. From there, went back to Germany as a Division Medical Operations Center. I went to the Command General Staff College. Tremendously blessed career because when I went back to IOLE now, or CGSC, I was also selected as the first Medical Service Corps to attend the School of Advanced Military Studies, SAMS. And as I attended that course, one of the best courses that I've ever attended outside of the National War College, it just was a phenomenal experience. From there, being the first Medical Service Corps to go through SAMS, I had to do a utilization assignment. That utilization assignment, they were like, okay, what do we do with this Medical Service Corps guy? And they were, again, true to form. They said that, well, all SAMS grads are not branch specific. They are operational planners. And Scotty, we're going to throw you in as an operational planner. So I went to Fort Bragg or Fort Liberty, North Carolina now as a combat ground planner in the G35 for 18th Airborne Corps. And then General Peake, who was the Surgeon General at the time, had worked out a deal with the Corps commander where I was like triple hatted. So I belonged to the G35 as a planner. I also belonged and did the plans for the Corps Surgeon's Office, 18th Airborne Corps Surgeon's Office, as well as the planner or plans officer for the 44th Med Brigade or MedCom at the time when it was a general officer command. Ultimately, 18th won, and they said, you're going down range. Served in Afghanistan as a CJ5 Combined Joint 3-5 planner. I was in charge of Phase 4 of Afghanistan operations, where I planned the provincial reconstruction teams, PRTs. Funny story is when I first got there and I joined the team late, after coming out of SAMS, they said, okay, Scotty, you have phase 4. And I'm like, well, what's phase 4? And they said, well, it's the provincial reconstruction teams. And I was like, man, I don't want to do the PRTs. I want to do combat plans like everybody else. You guys are doing that because I'm the medical service corps guy. It ultimately ended being a tremendous experience with working with President Karzai at the time and um, the CJ5 commander as we were putting together, again, phase 4, which is how we closed out Afghanistan with provincial reconstruction teams. And then from there, um, came back to Fort Bragg and served as Office of the Surgeon General staff. For the many young medical service corps officers out there, I always tell folks all roads lead to the Office of the Surgeon General in DC. Because if you want to learn how the Army runs or be a senior Army medicine leader, you got to come to OTSG. So I came to OTSG as a lieutenant colonel, chief of current operations. Tremendous experience with the things that I worked for the Army, from the Walter Reed and Army Medical Action Plan and things like that. The SRUs, Warrior Transition Command, formerly now known as SRUs, the Soldier Readiness Units, put those plans together. But just an amazing exposure as the first Army Medicine SAMS guy, working in the Surgeon General's office and Chief of Current Ops, and commanded both at Fort Bragg, North Carolina, at my '05 command, the 261st Multifunctional Medical Battalion. My brigade commands were the Medical Recruiting Brigade at Fort Knox, and then the 30th Medical Brigade in Germany before getting selected for general officer and coming back to DC.
Well, that's an incredible journey, sir. And I can definitely hear from your voice inflections that you definitely had some fun along the way, too. So it's refreshing to hear, sir, because I think sometimes officers are concerned if they stay too long, they're going to get burned out or bitter. And you definitely sound like you still have that joy. So I appreciate you sharing your journey.
Stephanie, as I tell officers, I think we are in the greatest corps and branch in the Army because there's so many different opportunities to serve in this profession, whether medical logistics like yourself, or operations, or like me, or personnel, or again, computers, IT, or cultural. I mean, it's just a wealth of paths to take. And the one thing that allowed me to have that joy, even now, 35 years of service, it's been that I've followed my heart and took assignments that made me happy or that I wanted to do. And I always tell officers, have fun in your assignments and select assignments that interest you and that brings a joy. And if you have joy in your job, in your profession, it's not a job because it's a joy.
No, that's great advice, sir. And it definitely goes along with the helping you do good in the job you're in versus what job you're in to get yourself promoted and to move up. So I appreciate you sharing that insight, sir. So I had an incredible opportunity back in December to have the privilege of hearing you speak, and you shared to the smaller group about your 10 and 35. And I appreciate your willingness to come on and share your knowledge and your experience, but also specifically your 10 and 35. So, sir, what is 10 and 35?
Okay, thanks, Stephanie. And I'll give you the Cliff Notes version so that we can interact and have some questions in here as I go along. But 10 and 35, as I told you, my Army journey, I stopped it at making Brigadier General after Brigade Command. My Brigadier General time uh, started, and I came back OTSG as the G357. But the next 7 years, I matriculated from 1 star to 2 star to the Surgeon General position for Army Medicine and the Commanding General of the United States Army Medical Command. And those 7 years as a general officer, my eyes were opened on many things that I have been trying to provide young officers coming up behind me my entire career. And one day, as I was sitting down, and I said that, I need to share with my staff, because where I started on OTSG, the top 10 things that I learned in 35 years of active duty service. When I retire on 1 March, I will have a total of 35 and a half years of service in Army medicine. And I said I wanted medical service corps officers, Army medicine officers, non-Army medicine officers to have the answers to the key. So the career is a test as you matriculate through the career minefield. I wanted you to know where the mines were. I wanted you to know what were the small nuggets that led to my success. And I call it top 10 and 35. And what I'm going to share with you all are those things, because I want you all, every officer, to be better than me. I want you to have the answers that no one tells you about as you're matriculating. Many of us will experience this and learn the hard way, and others will not even have a clue because no one told them. And so it's coined 10 and 35. And the number one thing that, or my top one, is called important versus urgent. Don't, as you matriculate through your careers, don't get urgent things mixed up with important things. And it's so easy to do that being a military officer and leader as you're balancing both profession and family. But you cannot mix up urgent versus important. Urgent are those things on the job and work that we all spend so much time doing. And all of us are recovering perfectionists because you want to do your best. You want to be the best. You want to serve your country and the profession of arms, and we grind. And those things are urgent because we have to get them done because we are conserving the fighting strength. But what happens is we negate the important things in your life: your health, your family, mom and dad, your loved one, your children's, those you care about. And Colonel Bloom wrote this article called Important versus Urgent. He was a field artillery officer. And to sum it up, he said that when you come to the end of your career after 20 or 30 years, you want to run out of career before you run out of family. And so thus you have to take the times as you're navigating through your career to make sure that you don't overlook the important things. Because when you last time you get that flag and you hand off the baton to the next person and you retire, you want to turn around and have your family still standing with you. And so he said he came up with these 3 questions to help you make decisions on how to make the right choice when it comes to your family and loved ones and yourself. And he said, one, if it's important to someone who's important to you, that you should be there. That's important. He said, if your personal presence makes a difference to someone, that's important. You need to be there. And he says, if the opportunity is not going to come around again, it's important. You have to be there. So the football games, the recitals, the plays, the PTAs, those things are timeless, but yet they're unforgiven because as they arise in your lives, you make choices not to go. And then your children, your nieces, your nephews, those experiences and events are gone. And you can't capture that. You got to spend time with mom and dad while they're alive, while they're here. Because when you don't talk to mom and make dad proud or give that call, you never know when it was the last opportunity um, to speak to them. I lost both my mother and father while serving on the Office of the Surgeon General staff as a general officer. And no one, if someone would have told me, hey, Dingle, you're going to lose your mom and dad, within the next year, I would have spent time wisely, differently. I was fortunate enough to be here when my mom and dad got sick and passed away. And so I tell folks from experience, don't confuse important versus urgent. The number two thing is goes with that important versus urgent. And I tell officers, don't lose your balance. Maintain your balance as you're navigating through the profession of arms, through Army medicine. And again, what I mean by that is taking the important things and the urgent things as you put them in the balance of your life and make sure that you keep that, I call equilibrium, is what I call it. Keep that equilibrium level. Keep those bubbles level as you focus on family and taking care of yourself and the hours you're working and health and team building and servant leadership versus stress and working long hours and sleep deprivation and all those things that are urgent that come with the job. You will be successful as officers and leaders because of the ultimate and the amazing responsibility that you have in your rucksacks, and that's to lead our nation's heroes. But as you drink from the cup of success, don't become intoxicated with the pride and the hubris therein and lose your balance. Maintain your balance. No, number three is don't lose your bearing. I give every officer that has worked for me when I'm in person, I give them a small ball bearing. And when I give them that ball bearing, I tell them, don't lose your bearing. Don't lose it. Don't lose it. That the bearing that I give them is small and round and is symbolic of your military bearing, your physical, your leadership, your integrity, your spousal, parental, professional, your excellence, your spiritual, your mental bearing. You set the example for those whose paths cross your lives. They look to you as in a higher and hold you to a higher standard because you're a commissioned officer in the medical service corps or in the army in this case. And you can't lose your bearing and do things, say things that are congruent with the leadership lifestyle that's expected of you. So don't lose your bearing. The bearing is small, and what people do is they put it away, they drop it. And that same way, you can't put away the standards of excellence that you are supposed to set. You got to always keep it at your forefront. When the bearings come together in a cylinder or in a row on a track, those bearings that are together can push tons of weight with just the touch of their finger. That's because they're a team. The bearing is also symbolic and reminder to build the team. Where are the other bearings at? Bring them together so that you all can complete and move tons of weight together. The bearing is perfectly round to remind you that you're not perfect. You're going to drop your bearing at times, but don't lose it.
So,
Acrostically, go ahead, Stephanie.
oh, I was just going to ask you, sir, because do you find that this has been you've had to be very intentional with this? Because it, I think folks don't realize that if you're not very intentional with this, not losing your bearing, and very intentional with weighing the important versus urgent, it doesn't naturally happen and no one's going to do it for you. Did you find that to be reality, that you had to be the one that was the monitor on that for yourself?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because sometimes it's going to be just you and Stephanie's life experiences are going to be unique to Stephanie. And nobody knows what those experiences, the ups, the downs that require a focused attention because that's life. No, and as you go through it, you are the only one, Stephanie, that's going to go through it. I'm the only one that's going to go through it. And so it is, in fact, very intentional. It is very personal. It is very prescribed and prescripted just for you. Because no matter where you're at, Stephanie, you're going to go through life. And as you go through life, you're going to encounter the challenges, not just from being the deputy 70 kilo consultant to the TSG, but in life, in your family, your loved ones, moms, dad, personal, professional. those struggles. And as you encounter just even on the job, remember, we spend most of our time on the job at work. And as we encounter those struggles just on the job, dealing with people and the situation and the task and request for information and the attitudes, the struggles, you can't lose your bearing. And that's where it all comes into play. Remember, closely tied, you heard me talk about I lost my mom and dad. That's the toughest time in my career. But I still had to continue on in the profession because the sun doesn't stop coming up. And you got to keep pressing on through the tough time. And that's where you got to maintain the balance, but you can't lose your bearing. And acrostically, what that bearing means that I put together was one, the B is believe. You got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in God or whatever your faith is, and you got to believe in the training that has been given to you so that you can keep pushing. The E is endure tough times. You're going to encounter tough times. I am. General Dingle, Stephanie is, Lieutenant Colonel Moore. Everybody, whether military or not, is going to endure tough times in life that you got to push through. The A is accept responsibility. Don't pass the buck. We're leaders. We're medical service corps officers. We be the best. We lead by example. Accept that responsibility. Stop passing the buck. The R is remain unconquered, an invictus spirit. Don't allow things to conquer you. Remain invictus, like the poem, and keep pushing through. The I is identified with excellence. You have two choices. You can soar with the eagles or you can walk with the turkeys. Remember, the turkeys end up on the table at Thanksgiving. Soar with the eagles. Soar with the eagles, because the eagles that soar in the sky do not have to worry about the rivers, the streams, the mountain they must cross. Those are the challenges. They just soar over them. Soar. Soar with the eagles. The ant never quit. When you start it, you finish it. Never quit. And then the G is give to others. Remember, servant leadership. Be servant leaders with all that you do. And that's what the bearing means.
Very powerful, sir, especially given the size of a bearing, which is probably smaller than the tip of your pinky, is my guess. So thank you for sharing that. And I'm very sorry for your loss, but I appreciate you sharing that personal. I think that our listeners really appreciate that personal aspect and you opening up. So thank you very much for that.
No, you're welcome, Steph. The number 4, Stephanie, you may remember this one. And when I do presentations for the pre-command course and for all the commands and leaders around the world, I always end it with this saying, and it's called the decisive element. And it was stated by Johann Wolfgang von Goethe. And he said this, the decisive element. I'll read it to you so that the listeners will know what it means. It says, I have come to the frightening conclusion that I am the decisive element. It is my personal approach that creates the climate. It's my daily mood that makes the weather. I possess tremendous power to make life miserable or joyous. I can be a tool of torture or an instrument of inspiration. I can humiliate or humor, hurt or heal. In all situations, it is my response that decides whether a crisis is escalated or de escalated, and a person is humanized or dehumanized. If we treat people as they are, we make them worse. If we treat people as they ought to be, we help them become what they are capable of becoming. The decisive element. A major sent that to me about 4 years ago as we were exchanging some mentorship dialogue. And he had this quote that he put down in one of our things, and it was the decisive element. Blew me away because it is so true and just spoke volumes about leadership, about servant leadership, and about impacting every situation. And that's how the decisive element, so powerful, it's my number 4 of the top 10.
Sir, it resonates with me when I think back to some of my soldiers I've had over the years. And I've had soldiers throughout the years, and I'm sure you have too, where they say, hey, this person, don't worry about them. Hopefully they'll be out of the army soon and they're not worth re-enlisting. And when you take the effort and the time to invest in them, and like you said, treat them and have the expectation of them if they're already at that level. Humans, and I say humans in general,
Mhm.
will surprise you.
Yep, absolutely. And you got to realize this, the medical service corps, this profession of arms, regardless of the AOC that we serve in as officers, we are the decisive element that shape the culture, the climate of the command, the section, the team, the platoon, the squad, whatever we're a part of. We can be that decisive element.
Absolutely. And I will make sure that I get a copy of that from you for the listeners, if that's okay, sir.
It sure is. We'll send the whole briefing to you on 1035. Number five is one that I've observed throughout my matriculation to be the Surgeon General is that relationships matter. Relationships matter. And I tell folks relationships are the building blocks to success. And you cannot or should not have a bad relationship. Don't let bad relationships even develop or fester in your lives. Keep them all positive. You never know when that relationship can come back to help you, or in some cases, if it's a bad relationship, to hurt you. But what we can do is to cultivate and water and nurture and develop relationships. The Army talks about mission command. And in mission command, it talks about building mutual trust and confidence. In order to build the mutual trust and confidence, you have to build relationships of those that you're leading. In order to do that, they have to trust you and who you are, sincerity and leadership. So remember, relationships matter. And when leaders go into commands, and just like the president of the United States goes and assumes, what do? They bring in their administration. Those administrations are based on the relationships, positive, that they have acquired along their journey. And so, along your journeys, build relationships and cultivate them at all costs. The, the number six is teamwork. And when I do the teamwork one, I show the picture of what's called the Wonder Pets. And some of you all, I don't know, Stephanie, if you knew who the Wonder Pets were when I put it up there. Did you know what the Wonder Pets were?
I did, sir.
You did. Ah, there you go. The Wonder Pets. The Wonder Pets. So let me ask you, Stephanie, who are the Wonder Pets? Tell me.
Oh gosh, sir. So they're animals that put it this way, I've put it on for my son at various times. So to
There
me,
you
it's
go.
it's the thing that engages him most. But what's cool is because they're actually like real animals, and then they're very engaging. And like most children type gauge shows, there's an innocence to it that I find very refreshing.
Absolutely. And what are three little innocent baby animals? A baby duckling, a baby turtle, and a baby hamster. And they go out into the world. They're friends, best friends. And each day they get up and they go out into the world, into the jungle, and they save people and save the day. And as they save the day and make a difference in the world, it's the Wonder Pets is what they're titled. And they always sing the song about what's going to work. And they say teamwork, teamwork. The teamwork that the Wonder Pets exhibit allow them to save the animals and save the jungle and the forest from harm and danger. We too must exhibit that Wonder Pet mentality of teamwork. Always build the team. As leaders, it's not about me, myself, and my ego. Being a Surgeon General wasn't about me, it was about we. It's about leadership, it's about us, it's about the team, because you can't accomplish anything by yourself. It takes teamwork. Number seven is servant leadership. I learned that it's the framework of leadership has changed from when I first came in as a second lieutenant. When I came in as a second lieutenant and as a platoon leader, the team was subordinate to the boss. We didn't talk to the battalion commander. The company commander was like God to us, and he was up on this pedestal looking down at the rest of the team, and we were bowing down and doing what they directed. And but that was the model of leadership in the Army back in the late 80s and 90s when I came in. But today's model is different. Times have changed. Servant leadership is the philosophy that has impacted our form of leadership on our watches now. And that's where the leader is not focused on himself or herself being at the top of the food chart. No, it's inversed. That the leader, the king or the queen, has to take care of everybody in the kingdom and the queendom. So the team is put before that leader. He or she must make sure that they have everything that they need to accomplish their mission. The most important and most busiest job is being a leader. Again, you got to make sure everybody on the team has what they need.
So, sir, I that it's great to hear you say that because I will tell you, and this is my personal opinion, I see a culture shift in the Army going on right now, and I think it's as any change. Nobody likes change, let's be honest. It's a struggle at times, and I see leaders that have experienced the Army you described that when you came in and are having that difficult and keeping up with the times. And I don't necessarily think that it's ill intended. I think it's just that they're not sure how to embrace it. So I think there's a fear for some of the senior leaders if I allow the team to become before me and I switch my leadership style, how do I still maintain that good order and discipline that was ingrained in their minds in a very different style of leadership? And I'm just sharing my personal thoughts, but I know that's a struggle. And I see some of the junior officers too sometimes struggle with that because they have a voice. And I will tell you, some of our officers now are more willing to share their voice and their opinions than ever, which I think is amazing. But what can we do collectively to help leaders embrace that change and be more a part of that change?
What we can do is leader development. We have to develop and pour into those coming up behind us to navigate those challenges and overcome those. And you're absolutely right. It's not a perfect army. We don't live in a perfect world. The ideal of servant leadership is the model and the goal. Now, the reality is that everybody is not a servant leader. You all see it all the time in ranks, even as from the lowest rank of lieutenant to the highest rank of general. You still have those that thrive off that old model of leadership, of power, of prestige, preeminence, promise, and want to have that attention and that uplifting limelight. And sometimes it can be toxic and very challenging. One of the things that many of our young medical service corps officers encounter as second lieutenants is that they're thrown into BCTs and maneuver units and combat units as the medical platoon leader or the MEDO, the medical officer. They're doing a plan. They're the one there, not like the others, and so they're treated differently. They're the ugly duckling in some cases, and they got to fight their way to the table. And sometimes it's not a good experience, and they're used as fodder for some of those non-AMED leaders' profiles. It's challenging, and they don't get that servant leadership, but it's just the opposite. And you have to push through those times, and you have to learn through those experiences. All of my positions in my career weren't peaches and cream and roses and sunny days. I had some very challenging, toxic leaders a couple of times. And I didn't fold, but what I did, I had to learn from those experiences on what not to do and how not to be, and to develop my leaders, my subordinates, my consultants, and show them the model so that they can introspectively look at themselves and build their leadership philosophies and styles to take care of people, and then always encouraging it. And then by my example, to be a servant leader.
Well, I appreciate you acknowledging what our lieutenants go through nowadays, sir. And I think we all have a part to play in that, regardless of our rank, whether we're a captain or a colonel, a lieutenant colonel, a major. Like, we have an opportunity to reach out to those lieutenants and arm them with knowledge that we've already gained from that experience, like you are doing right now. And so, thank you very much for indulging my question and my personal thoughts with you.
No, you're welcome, Stephanie. Now, number eight is I've learned that your reputation precedes you. And my question rhetorically to everyone listening is, what is your reputation? Is it excellent? Is it good, average, poor, bad? All of us, every one of us has a reputation. How do people look at you as you wear that uniform, as you lead? What do they say about you? Remember that the network will pass your reputation, and it's better to have no reputation than a bad. And that reputation is built by your engagements and your actions that you execute and exhibit every day. So every day you're building your reputation. So build an excellent reputation by your work ethic and your service and your drive and your passion. Don't build a bad one. Remember, you're impacting people. You're impacting people. Number nine is mentorship. Mentorship. When I talk to mentors, oh, someone asked this question to me as I was talking mentors. They said, "Hey, well, General Dingle, do you have mentors?" And I said, "Phew, do I have mentors? I got so many mentors that I might as well have a Rolodex or encyclopedia of hundreds of mentors." And my mentors are in all shapes and sizes and genders and races. The mentor is just not one in all ranks that look like you or that's in the same profession. They are all over. They're all ranks. Some are junior than me. Mentor is someone who walks ahead of you to show how they did it and alongside of you to show that what you need to think about as you do it. It's something that is so refreshing because you're gleaning the wisdom of someone who walked that path that you're walking now. They're not there to direct you and command you. All right, Scotty, you're going to make a left. No. He said, okay, well, Scotty, what's the situation? Okay. Well, when I was there, I made a left. And here's what happened from my left. But you can go straight, you can make a right, you can turn around, and here's some things to think about. And then they allow you, after showing you the path and what they experienced, to make a decision. And you make the decision. Well, if you make the left like they did, or the straight, the right, or a half turn either way, or turned around, the mentor doesn't abandon you. The mentor's there with you to help you along that journey, providing the overwatch and speaking to you in your ear and the encouragement and to bounce something off. I got tons of mentors, and it's a very deliberate, it has to be a natural fit too, where the personalities, like a piece of a puzzle, come together. And when you're able to talk openly and candidly about what you're going through and sharing your thought processes, my mentors have. Man, so you say it takes a whole village, man. It took a whole state, a country of mentors that I got in my back pocket that have advised me, that I listen to, that I love and greatly appreciate.
I appreciate you talking about it being deliberate and that it's really someone that walks ahead of you, because I think oftentimes the way that we in open forum discuss mentorship in the army is, hey, you need to get yourself a mentor. And so then you have officers who once upon a time was me. I looked around and I was like, well, who is that person? And I thought it was a captain. He had to give his number out to all of us because I think it was an effort to make an intentional mentorship program. And I never heard from that captain again. And so I appreciate the deliberateness there, because it also is on the mentor to be deliberate. And I feel
Hmm.
like with our generation of officers that are coming in today, we have a divergence occurring with multi generations. And I think there's a comfort level that's just a little bit different. And I know that it is more important for me to reach down to, and when I say down, I mean only by rank, but reach down and in and make it a comfortable conversation or offer that mentorship. If I see an officer that seems like they would resonate with me, we might have a good natural professional relationship. But I think it's really on the more senior to also make it comfortable and inviting. And so that's what I pictured when you talk about deliberate, sir.
Yeah, no, you're spot on. And how you develop that has to be natural, deliberate, but yet it has to be natural fit. One of my mentors had told me as I was an instructor at the schoolhouse, and we were supporting the AMED pre-commanders course, and all these colonels were sitting there. This was the brigade PCC at the time. And as all these colonels were there, one of my mentors who was also there said, hey, Scotty, do you know this colonel here? I said, no, sir. And he said this. He said, always say hello and speak to senior officers, because you never know when that person, that officer who has navigated a path that you have set as a goal and objective on or towards will end up being a mentor. You always speak, and it's the job of the senior leaders to always pour into those coming up behind us. But if we don't know you, we can't establish that relationship. And so just speak and say hello. And he says sometimes you're gonna say, hey, General Dingle, how you doing? And General Dingle's gonna say, oh, hey, well, Stephanie, doing good. How are you doing, Stephanie? And you say, fine. Okay. Well, how's the things going on up there at the Institute of Surgical Research? How things going up there in Maryland? And then you'll say with this, well, how is your family doing? And it's that beginning of questions and dialogue that ultimately can end up being a mentor-mentee relationship. Other times you're going to say to Colonel High Speed, hey, Colonel High Speed, and they're gonna say, "Hey, how you doing there? Colonel Moore, good Army Day, OCP, cool." And you'll get a who, and you're gonna keep going. Don't talk to me. I'm big eye, little you. You'll get that. You'll get that. But you never know when you're gonna get that opening opportunity that leads to mentee and mentorship. And then the last one, number 10, is work hard and play hard. Work hard, play hard. If like I asked my staff, and Stephanie, you've seen a little bit of it through being a consultant, but you're going to work hard if you work for me, but I also want you to play hard. Like I mentioned earlier, you spend the majority of your time at work, the majority of your life at work, 5 days a week out of seven. You will work hard working for me because I want you to be the best. We will be the best. We're the quintessential epitome of excellence in all that we do. And it's my job to stretch you, push you to be your best, give you what you need. We're going to work hard. We're going to work hard, high standards of excellence. But yet also we're going to play hard too. As we work hard, that doesn't mean that it has to be an environment that is surrounded with tenseness and where we can't laugh and smile and enjoy what we do. No, implement joy and a little bit fun into the work environment as we execute a standard of excellence by our example. And then when we're off, we got to play hard too. Enjoy your time. Have fun. I took my staff, my personal staff, San Antonio, one of our trips, and Team TSG, as we call it. I got personal staff, special staff, and then my overall big staff of the Surgeon General's office and the MedCom commander staff in different locations. But I took my personal staff and my command sergeant major staff, and during our um, trip, we worked in. Okay, we worked hard. The mission is done for the day. Now let's play hard. And we went to Top Golf, and from Top Golf, we went to Mario Andretti's, and we enjoyed our time outside of work playing, having fun, building and establishing and solidifying relationships, competing. All of them are competitors, and we all compete hard. And so it was funny to watch us all trying to win at Top Golf and talk trash, and to win at racing in these racing cars, and talk trash with each other and laugh at each other. And I mean, we had a blast. We played so hard. And so, number 10 thing that I've learned in 35 years is work hard, but have fun, play hard. And those are the top 10 things in 35 years. Now, I've learned a whole bunch, but the ones that resonated as I look back is, well, what facilitated and was important to my 35 years that ultimately ended up at the rank of Lieutenant General and the Army Surgeon General? Well, it was important versus urgent. It was maintain balanced priorities, don't lose your bearing, be the decisive element. Relationships matter. Teamwork makes the dream work. Be a servant leader. Guard your reputation because your reputation precedes you. Mentorship and work hard and play hard. Have fun.
Well, sir, thank you very much for breaking those down and to share that. You have an incredible amount of self awareness and sense of self. And I do want to share, I had the pleasure of encountering you when you were a brigadier general and then later as a major general. And it is very evident that you live and breathe these things. To include the work hard, play hard, when you came to visit us at Fort Polk in
Mhm.
JRTC. We had been in the box for, I want to say, 72 hours, and we were worn out staff. And you infused some work hard, play hard mentality with us with some motivational push ups that I think you out push upped all of us, but you definitely broke the tension when you sensed it and you brought that play experience into the working hard aspect. And it was very powerful to witness and to see. And so I appreciate how open you are being with us on sharing all of this because I know that you live and breathe these 10 things.
Stephanie, do you remember the OC guy that when we dropped down to do our push-ups and the one OC was like chest out, man, power, I'm the OC, didn't drop. And I'm like, you too, buddy, get down here like
Um,
everybody else.
Sir, I think we laughed about that for a week. I remember it very well.
Oh, that was funny.
So, sir, before we wrap up the interview, we have
Hmm.
two fun questions for you, like every guest we have on. So, the first one is, what is the best advice you've either ever given or have received? And just one.
I would say live your dream. Live your dream. Don't, as no, in everything that you do, follow your heart and live your dream. And don't let anything stop you or block you or say that you can't do it. And just go for it. Live your dream. That would be the best advice I would give, and that has been given to me.
Well, thank you for that great advice. So, to wrap it up, sir, you get to tell us a fun fact about yourself. And if you don't have one, you just need to tell us what's your favorite ice cream.
Okay, I'm gonna give you both of them real quick. One fun fact that I would say that a lot of people don't realize because when they see me and they're like, "Oh man, three-star general," and did you hear him talk? He must be a West Pointer or VMI at these military schools, just the opposite. Fun fact is that I was a college athlete, football and track athlete at Morgan State University, Baltimore, Maryland. And my objective and goal, number one priority, was to play professional football. I want to be a professional football player. And I was one of the leading tackles in the Mid-Eastern Athletic Conference as a junior. And again, goal was to play professional football and came into the Army to take care of my family before I went my senior year. But to this day, I'm a gym rat, still thinking that I can tackle and beat my children in every sport and all that. And then my favorite ice cream is chocolate chip ice cream.
Nice choice, sir. And I, you know what? I think the Army got the better deal. I think Lieutenant General Dingle is a better sound than Super Bowl winner Dingle. So,
Hey,
uh,
that Super Bowl gave me a lot more money.
uh, true, sir. Well, sir, I appreciate and am very humbled that you are willing to come on and share with the listeners your incredible experience and knowledge. And it was absolute pleasure talking to you. So thank you very much.
Stephanie, it was an honor being on the MSC Be All You Can Be podcast. And I challenge every MSC out there that listens to you and thank you for what you're doing. And that is in our core to not just be all you can be, but live your dream. I dare you to be great. I dare you to accomplish the things that are the quintessential best in your profession. I dare you to be great. I dare you to be better than me. And hopefully, some of the 10 things that I just shared with you all of my 35 years culminating as a Surgeon General will help you as they help me. But thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate you, and I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for joining us. Don't miss the next episode of the Be All You Can Be MSC podcast. Subscribe now and join our vibrant community of ambitious professionals who are taking their careers to the next level. The opinions shared on this podcast are the personal opinions of the guests and the hosts. They do not reflect the official position of the Medical Service Corps, the Department of Defense, or the U.S. government.